Hey, this is Mike Long, and welcome inside the Area 51 of the world of Magic. A few months ago, I put together some videos on a deck that my teammate Pat Chapin and I helped build. We had a whole team that came together and helped build that deck, and that ended up doing very well at Pro Tour Kyoto. Actually, our teammate Gabriel Nassif ended up winning that pro tournament. There were a few lucky plucks involved, but it was all in good fun. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to take you inside of the deck that we actually ended up playing for Pro Tour Honolulu. I'm not in Honolulu myself right now. I wanted to show you that I am, however, wearing my festive Honolulu jeans. Very nice stuff there. Don't think that I'm not down with the palm trees, because I am. So what I want to do is I want to take you inside of the deck that our teammate Zak Hill ended up using to make top 8. The top 8 will actually be in draft, so you won't get to see this deck played. And so I thought I actually would put it together and play a game for it to show you how it works and how the cards interact. All right, we're having a look here at the deck, and should be able to also see my face a bit, my smiling face and my cool-looking hat. So hopefully that's not too disorienting for you. I've got a little webcam here, but what we've got here is another five-color controller, five-color Cascade deck. And you might notice a bit of a theme coming out of the Patrick Chapin school of deck building and drafting and so forth. You may notice that Patrick's had a lot of five-color decks. If you've been watching on StarCityGames.com or watching we played, Patrick played five-color at Nationals, played five-color at Worlds, played five-color, planned on playing five-color at Pro Tour Osaka, but he was waylaid, wasn't able to make the trip. And but that was the deck that we built, and our teammate Gabriel Nassif, like I said, ended up winning with it. And so why is Patrick in this theme of five-color? And kind of the one major lesson that I want to talk about when it comes to really designing outstanding decks in Magic. And deck construction, by the way, I think is, weirdly enough, I actually think that it's underrated. I think that people don't realize the importance of it. When back in the day when I was competing professionally, my teammate David Mills, who is the person who sort of set up a lot of Tonga Nation's philosophical architecture, Tonga Nation was the name of my team. He had this idea that, this idea has been proven again and again. It's a meta idea. You can understand from the idea of metagame in Magic that there are also meta ideas. The metagame are the decks that make up the actual field in Magic in a tournament that you're sitting down to play. And so those decks, more than anything else, really influence what you're facing off against. Whether your deck is good or not is really more based on the metagame than based on any sort of there's no one objective great deck in Magic, because there's matchups and so forth. Of course, if your deck can just automatically win on first turn, like maybe long dot deck in Type 1 sometimes can. But regardless, we want to also have meta ideas, so our ideas can kind of be better, and those meta ideas, we can rely on them rather than having to reinvent the wheel every time the guys over at Research and Development publish a new set for Magic. You can't have a whole new set of understandings for things. And so one main idea that we had is the idea that you win in context rather than with content. And so the idea in Magic would be that 80% of the fight, let's say, is in deck construction. And there's still a significant portion of the fight or of games that boil down to skill play. A lot of folks have heard about me bluffing Mark Justice a couple times in the finals of Pro Tour Paris. But that was because the decks were very close. David Mills had actually designed Mark's deck, and I had designed the deck that I was playing. Actually, David and I had essentially designed both of them. And so they were very, very close, and I had played hours and hours and hours of those decks, and I knew that there wasn't, that each of the decks was sort of taking advantage of that 80% as much as they could, and the rest of it was going to really boil down to skill play when it came to that top 8. And so that does come up, but let's make sure that we secure that 80% advantage. Let's not just assume that we have, and it's actually shockingly easy in Magic to assume that we have an advantage when we really don't. So as we kind of peruse this deck, one of the ideas that I'm going to discuss with you is the idea of themes. And the idea of themes is, this is again a critical lesson that David Mills nailed down, and this is one of the reasons why we thrive with deck building. You know, we felt like deck building is 80% of success when it comes to Magic. Of course, when you're done building your deck, you should sit down and focus and play very well. But when it came to when it came to deck building and rules in deck building, one of the most important rules that we followed is to be very wary of themes. And when I say themes, we see themes in Magic all the time. Themes, by the way, are not real. Themes are the way that our minds organize concepts. And to properly understand things, we try to take various concepts that are not really a part of one another, and we try to put them together in a useful way. Sometimes it's very, very not useful, though. So if we say, oh, there's a bunch of, Chinese people out there. Well, is that really true? I mean, it's a bit more accurate to say that there's a number of individuals in a place that people commonly refer to as China. And then it's kind of very easy to start thinking of them as being Chinese. But what does that really mean? There's a little bit of usefulness to it, but it can wear pretty thin very quickly. And of course, we can end up with all kinds of silly stuff like racism and so forth if we take these themes too far. Well, in Magic, this is really, really true. We'll get the theme of like, oh, I'm a beatdown player, or I'm building, an attack deck. I'm building a dragon deck. And the important thing about themes is that they're only as useful as they really are. So what I mean is that if building a dragon deck leads to building a useful deck, then it's useful. But the second it's not, then that dragon deck is out the window. The idea of building a dragon deck is out the window. I likened the deck that Gabriel Nassif ended up, you can check out my previous YouTube videos. I likened the deck that Gabriel Nassif ended up playing and winning Pro Tour Kyoto as being very similar to the original deck that David Mills built in Type 1 called the Keeper. And the thing with the Keeper was that its theme was very different. It was a deck that had many of the same cards as some of the famous decks of the time, like the deck. Our friend Brian Weissman built quite a successful Sarah Angel control-ish deck with moats and plowshares and mana drains and amnesia called the deck. But what David did was he added both red and black to the Keeper, and he had Abyss and Moat, for instance, instead of having Sarah Angel. So instead of having the theme of having nifty Sarah Angels, he had the theme of I win. Okay, that was the theme of the Keeper, and maybe that sounds trite, but the Keeper won, and it won like crazy. David first captured a beta set tournament with the Keeper. Nowadays, a beta set would be worth about $10,000. At the time, it was worth maybe 3 or 4. Then we went on. We actually captured a number of tournaments in the Mid-Atlantic region with the Keeper. Then I ended up playing it at the Magic Invitational. I played terribly in the finals against Alara and ended up losing. So that wasn't the Keeper's fault. That was my fault. And anyway, it became a very popular deck. A lot of people don't realize that David Mills built the Keeper. But the point of the Keeper was the themes were to win. And if there was a useful theme inside of that, the deck was sort of built around some of the powerful cards of the environment: Ancestral Recall, Library of Alexandria. You can look those cards up if you want to on Google. Just look up Ancestral Recall, Magic the Gathering, or Library of Alexandria, Magic the Gathering, or Mind Twist, Magic the Gathering. Those are the 3 cards that it was built around. Mind Twist is a lot like Mind Shatter, it just costs 1 less. And Ancestral Recall is a lot like Ancestral Visions. It's just that it was an instant 1 blue, and you just immediately draw 3 cards. Pretty exciting. And Library of Alexandria was a land where if you have 7 cards in your hand, you just happen to draw a card, and that was very powerful in that environment. Still often is, by the way. And what David noticed was when he cast Ancestral Recall, he won. So that was like his theme was winning. So for instance, he started playing Merchant Scroll. Nowadays, Merchant Scroll is finally restricted in Type 1, but for years and years and years, people would just pull out their hair trying to do anything in the world not to play with Merchant Scroll.